Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive paradigm shift that is heading straight for organizations in 2026. For years, businesses have basically operated with a giant wall dividing their digital operations. But right now, we're witnessing the total death of regulatory silos. We're going to explore exactly how cybersecurity and data privacy, which used to be entirely separate worlds, have essentially merged into a single, unified compliance reality.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Historically, if you walked into almost any major enterprise, you'd see this very distinct split. You had the cyber teams huddled in one corner, totally laser-focused on network controls, continuous monitoring, and keeping systems resilient. And then, usually in a completely different building or department, you had the legal and compliance teams meticulously drafting privacy notices and managing consent forms. Well, that was the old way. The 2026 reality paints a radically different picture. That separation? It just doesn't exist anymore. Regulators today demand that organizations demonstrate highly secure systems and responsible data handling simultaneously. They aren't separate chores anymore. They're one unified operation.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with Section 1, the end of silos. Then 2, CSCRF and DPDP explained. 3, the 5 points of intersection. 4, the business impact. And finally 5, the path to compliance.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the end of silos, and this major cybersecurity shift.
To really grasp why regulators are forcing this change, we have to look at the evolving nature of modern cyber incidents. Put simply, poor cybersecurity leads directly to privacy violations. Think about it. A cyber incident is almost never just an isolated system issue anymore. Today, nearly every single breach involves personal, financial, or highly sensitive user data. When you have weak access controls, well, that immediately results in unauthorized data exposure. And when your incident response is delayed, it drastically worsens the fallout of that breach. Because these two areas are so deeply intertwined in the real world, regulatory expectations had no choice but to merge.
Moving right along to Section 2, CSCRF and DPDP explained, and the convergence of these frameworks.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the specific regulatory alphabet soup driving the shift. We are basically looking at a massive collision of two totally distinct frameworks. On one side, we've got CSCRF. That's the Cybersecurity and Cyber Resilience Framework mandated by SEBI. Its historical focus has been purely on locking down systems and making sure operations don't go down. On the flip side, we have DPDP, India's Digital Personal Data Protection Regime, which is all about protecting personal data and user privacy. For the longest time, companies treated these like two completely separate checklists, but in 2026, they are totally intertwined. You literally cannot comply with DPDP if your security isn't up to CSCRF standards.
Which brings us to the core of our explainer. Section 3, the 5 points of intersection, where these controls actually merge. So how exactly do these frameworks overlap? Well, intersection 1 is all about access control. Just look at the dual mandates here. CSCRF explicitly requires strong identity and access management to keep the network safe. Meanwhile, DPDP expects that only explicitly authorized users can ever lay eyes on personal data. So what does this mean for your day-to-day operations? It means role-based access, strict privilege user controls, and doing frequent access reviews. Those aren't just IT chores anymore. They are the actual hard proof that privacy regulators are going to ask for to ensure data is locked down.
Let's build on that with intersection 2, logging, monitoring, and breach detection. Because, let's face it, if your access controls ever fail, continuous monitoring logs become your absolute lifeline. CSCRF mandates continuous monitoring and logging just for basic system health. But DPDP requires the extremely timely detection and reporting of data breaches. So you need real-time monitoring of the specific systems that handle personal data, you need secure log retention, and you absolutely need the forensic ability to pinpoint exactly when and how data was exposed. Without that robust cyber monitoring in place, demonstrating privacy compliance to regulators is virtually impossible.
Which leads us straight into intersection 3, incident response. And the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this. Cyber readiness directly impacts privacy compliance outcomes. CSSRF focuses heavily on your readiness to respond to an incident, meaning you have tested plans and clear workflows. DPDP, on the other hand, cares about how quickly and accurately you notify authorities and the affected individuals. Think about it. You simply cannot meet DPDP's strict notification deadlines if your cyber incident response plan takes 3 weeks just to classify a breach. Your technical escalation speeds literally dictate your legal compliance.
Moving over to intersection 4, we hit one of the absolute biggest compliance risk areas for 2026, vendor and third-party governance. Both CSCRF and DPDP are incredibly strict here. They hold the primary entity, meaning you, the business, entirely responsible, even if a breach happens over at your vendor's office. This means your vendor risk classifications, security assessments, data sharing agreements, and your ongoing monitoring of how vendors touch your systems, all of that has to be flawlessly integrated. Because unfortunately, your vendor's careless mistake is now simultaneously a massive security and privacy crisis for your organization.
And finally, intersection 5, data lifecycle management. I want you to ask yourself, is deleted data truly inaccessible? DPDP mandates strict purpose limitation and data deletion. Basically, if you don't need it, destroy it. CSCRF, meanwhile, mandates system hygiene and risk reduction, because holding on to unnecessary data creates a massive, totally avoidable attack surface. So keeping tabs on how long data is stored, heavily protecting your backups, and making absolutely sure deleted data can't be magically recovered, those are dual priorities. Data minimization is, quite literally, a critical security control now.
Let's look at Section 4, the business impact, and why all of this actually matters.
So why should you care about this structural shift? How does it hit your bottom line? Let's contrast the major headaches of the old way with the operational rewards of embracing this integration. If you stubbornly keep your teams in silos, you are practically guaranteeing duplicate audits, you're building conflicting internal controls, and you're leaving massive gaps in accountability. And ultimately, that skyrockets your risk of non-compliance. But if you integrate your governance, you get perfectly clear ownership, significantly stronger audit outcomes, and crucially, much faster incident response times. That dramatically reduces your regulatory exposure.
All right, let's get practical. Section 5, the path to compliance and your actionable steps.
So, how do we actually achieve those rewards we just talked about? And this brilliantly illustrates your operational game plan. Step 1, you have to align your cybersecurity and privacy governance under a single framework. Stop treating them differently. Step 2, meticulously map your data flows directly to your security controls. Step 3, integrate your Security Operations Center, your SOC monitoring, directly with your data breach response plans, so they talk to each other. Step 4 is conducting combined, rather than completely separate cyber and privacy gap assessments. And finally, Step 5, maintain unified evidence for your audits. It is all about building one single source of truth for all regulators.
Now, because these steps are incredibly complex to manage internally, a lot of businesses are turning to specialized consultancies. Firms like Lumiverse Solutions, for instance, provide industry solutions specifically designed for this kind of converged compliance. They step in to help organizations build those unified governance models, conduct specialized CSCRF and DPDP gap assessments, and provide continuous SOC monitoring right alongside vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, or VAPT. By bringing in experts to handle incident response, breach readiness, and vendor risk, companies can ensure their security and privacy efforts are actually working together rather than constantly fighting against each other.
I want to leave you with this thought to summarize everything we've covered today. In 2026, compliance is no longer about documentation alone, it is about operational proof. You absolutely cannot just hand a regulator a giant stack of paper policies anymore. You have to prove, operationally and technically, exactly how securely data is handled, monitored, and protected throughout its entire life cycle.
The organizations that recognize this convergence early, they are for sure the ones that will breeze through smoother audits, dodge massive penalties, and actually build stronger trust with their users. Which leaves us with one final very critical question for you to ponder. Is your organization truly ready for 2026? Think about your own internal silos, your access controls, and your vendor agreements. The convergence is already here. It's time to adapt. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this gives you a clear, actionable roadmap for the future of convergence.